PC leader Tim Hudak announces his new plan for Northern Ontario. Another murder sentence delayed by the absence of a key report. And the U.S. Navy shipyard in Washington targeted in a mass shooting.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Ontario Conservatives have laid out their plan for Northern Ontario, but it remains unclear what benefits the region could see.
Progressive Conservative leader Tim Hudak was in Thunder Bay today to talk about his party's Paths to Prosperity plan. But Hudak didn't get into specifics about the issues affecting our region, including job creation. Hudak, along with MPPs Norm Miller and Laurie Scott, as well as local PC candidates Harold Wilson and Tamara Johnson, unveiled the report earlier today. The group also held a roundtable with business owners at the Norwester Hotel. At the news conference, Hudak touched on a number of topics, including the Ring of Fire and the Thunder Bay generating station. But when pressed for details about creating jobs in the region, especially in the forest industry, he would not provide details.
We've laid out our plan. We've laid out our division, our visions of what's going to happen in this province, and it's all about jobs and the economy making us number one again. Right across the province, I see us bringing back, for example, at least 300,000 jobs in advanced manufacturing. We've lost 40% of the jobs in the forest sector here. Enough is enough. It's time for a turnaround.
The only detail provided came from Wilson, who mentions the reopening of a sawmill in the region. Other highlights from the plan include Hudak's appointment of a provincial minister to oversee the entire Ring of Fire project, and also the goal of getting 10 new mines online over the next 5 years.
Minister of Northern Development and Mines, Michael Gravel, has responded to the Conservatives' plan. In a statement, Gravel claims Hudak doesn't know the facts. The Thunder Bay Superior North MPP reiterated the Liberal government's commitment to Northern Ontario through the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund and the Northern Highways Program, which he says have invested almost $6 billion in the region since 2003. Gravel also emphasized the importance of the Ring of Fire, but says the work with all of their partners must be done right.
Meanwhile, the leader of the Ontario NDP was in town yesterday as the keynote speaker at the party's Northern Council meeting. Andrea Horvath called the situation surrounding the Thunder Bay generating station a game of political football. Horvath says the ruling Liberals tend to forget promises made after taking the reins of power. She calls the generating station's halted conversion to natural gas a perfect example of that. Horvath says it has been clear for some time that the issue is not just access to electricity, but reliable access that's ongoing. Horvath added that the North would not be ignored if she were elected Premier. She believes that an economic opportunity is being wasted by the Liberals.
In the interim, to push the Liberals to make the right decision for the Northwest and make sure that we get reliable access to power, because there's, as I said in my speech, some at least 9 mines that I've been told about that are either being developed or that are being reopened that need to be able to access that power to be able to be in production.
Horvath says people want access to electricity, and this is what the plan will do. She says she will continue to push the province to make it happen, calling the lack of commitment to conversion shameful.
Today marks 1 year since a large group of scientists took to Parliament Hill to demonstrate the importance of basic and applied science in government decision-making. So to mark the anniversary, the Thunder Bay chapter of the Council of Canadians held a demonstration of their own. Around 15 people gathered at MP John Rafferty's office and walked up and down Simpson Street carrying signs to raise public awareness. Council Chair Tom Cook says the Harper government is putting more money than ever into science, but only applied science. Cook says that without basic science, which is more about experimentation and discovery, applied science won't have the extra research needed to fully function.
And we're trying to send a message to the federal government that just doing applied science is shortcutting everybody. You need to have the basics before you can do the advanced, and you get better results because of it.
Similar groups are rallying across Canada to raise awareness for the cause.
Thunder Bay City Councillor Aldo Roberto hopes that he has swayed enough of his council colleagues to vote in favor of a new pet bylaw. A little more than a month ago, that bylaw to limit the number of pets a household can have was shot down in a tight 6-5 vote. That decision is up for ratification at City Hall tonight, but the resolution has also been tweaked. In addition to taking a look at limiting the number of cats and dogs per household, Roberto also wants a report on improving communication between animal control and the Humane Society. Council will also be asked tonight to sign a new deal with the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation. The latest agreement provides 4% of the revenue from live gaming tables. That's expected to fetch an additional $84,000 each year. The city has been receiving roughly $2.4 million every year through quarterly payments. Since opening in August of 2000, the local casino has given $31.6 million back to the city.
Where there's a will, there's a way. The new campaign launched today is aimed at people preparing their will and encourages them to consider a charitable recipient. It's something many people often leave to the last minute. 6 local groups, including the George Jeffrey Children's Fund and the St. Joseph's Foundation, have joined together to form the Community Giving Partnership. The goal is to raise awareness of the benefits of leaving gifts to local charities in your will. Dawn Ironside says already gotten on board. She recently had a sudden loss in the family due to pancreatic cancer. Now with her updated will, she knows that when she passes on, some money will go to a cause she believes in.
So we spoke to our lawyer. We were having grandchildren coming at the same time, and we changed our wills to reflect, in our particular case, a learning environment into pancreatic cancer research here in this city. In our case, it was the medical school, but it can be any charity, really.
More information on the Community Legacy Giving Partnership is available from the St. Joseph's Foundation and the other participating charities.
It was a busy early morning for Thunder Bay firefighters. Just after midnight, they were called to the Bowater Sawmill on Darrell Avenue. An overheated bearing caused a small fire in a chip bin. And just after 1 a.m., crews attended a home on Blucher Avenue where there was a fire in the back of a residence. It was brought under control quickly, but there was some interior damage to the kitchen. The cause remains under investigation.
Thunder Bay police are looking for a man involved in an armed robbery at an Arthur Street restaurant last night. The incident happened at the Tokyo House at around 9 o'clock. Police say a man entered the restaurant, pulled out a large knife, and demanded money from the staff. This surveillance video shows the man police are looking for. A group of employees tried to subdue him but were unsuccessful, and he fled the scene. Police are looking for a Caucasian man, about 27 years old, with a thin build and dark shirt and pants. Anyone with information about the incident is asked to call Thunder Bay Police or Crime Stoppers.
And city police caught the attention of onlookers and social media on Saturday afternoon with a unique arrest involving an ice cream truck. That arrest took place on Merrill Street in the Current River area. Officers with the police service took a 44-year-old man into custody without incident just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The man was driving an ice cream truck when he was stopped by the officers. Since then, hundreds of people have shared photos and video of the incident on Facebook. Police offered very little information about the incident, saying only that the man was arrested on an outstanding warrant for breach of release orders. There is no word on what his previous conviction was for, but he has since been released from custody and is now expected to appear in court at a future date. As for the ice cream truck, well, it had to be towed from the area following the arrest as it was obstructing the roadway.
Hearing put on hold. It's the second time this month that a convicted murderer has seen his case adjourned due to delays in obtaining a Gladue report. 34-year-old Joseph Wesley was originally charged with second-degree murder, but pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter back in June. The homicide occurred in a bush area just north of Inner City Shopping Center last summer. 65-year-old Adam Yellowhead was found with fatal injuries, and Wesley was arrested days later in Kenora. The case sparked an internal investigation within the city police force after an email was accidentally sent to Thunder Bay media referring to Wesley as the fresh breath killer. The final hearing was scheduled for today, but the Gladue report wasn't made available until this morning. It helps the judge take into account the unique background of Aboriginal offenders. The report was ordered on June 27th but didn't commence until late August. The case was adjourned until next week. A similar situation occurred last Monday for murder suspect Leif Hobson. His sentencing hearing was delayed for 2 weeks because the Gladue report wasn't completed.
An OPP dive team has recovered the body of a U.S. man who went missing last Thursday while fishing on Northern Lights Lake. The man and a female companion were in the Trafalgar Bay area of the lake when their boat struck something in the water, ejecting both occupants. The woman, who was wearing a life jacket, managed to swim to a nearby island. She was found by another passing fisherman. The victim, however, was not wearing a life jacket. He's been identified as 59-year-old Dennis Todd of Jefferson City, Missouri. Meantime, another search that began last Thursday along the English River near Ear Falls continued today. Two duck hunters fell into the water Wednesday evening when their vessel capsized. One of the men managed to make it to shore and was found the next morning, but there has been no sign of his companion ever since. OPP Marine units and family members resumed their search efforts earlier today, aided by an OPP helicopter.
The Anishinaabe Police Service officially has a new chief of police. The change of command ceremony was held today at the NAPS headquarters in Thunder Bay. Terry Armstrong will now take the helm, replacing Bob Herman, who held the acting position since January of this year. Cheryl Holmes reports the new chief calls it a great honor.
Standing in front of a room full of people, Terry Armstrong pledged an oath of allegiance to the Anishinaabe Police Service. He's now taken official command of the largest First Nation police service in Canada.
It's quite an honor to be selected as the next chief for the Anishinaabe Police Service and to represent policing in the Anishinaabe Nation. It's quite an honor for me.
Terry has a lot of experience in First Nations policing, and I know him personally. I know that he'll be a very good chief for the Anishinaabe Police Service. So on one side, I'm very, very pleased about that. On the other side, it's a little bit sad. I mean, when you put your heart and soul into a police service for a short period of time, to leave it is quite emotional. So, I know NAPS is in good hands, and I know as a police service we're moving forward, and I'm sure that the new chief will continue to do that.
Armstrong most recently served as deputy chief with the Treaty 3 Police Service. He previously served on various OPP detachments. Armstrong says he's ready to take on the challenges facing the police service. He calls the process so far very informative.
They've got a pretty good blueprint for the future in respect to infrastructure, staffing, all those things, and those will be the big things going forward. Is to ensure that we continue to get the proper infrastructure, proper training for our officers, and to ensure the staffing levels are kept at a level that we can properly protect the people of the citizens of Nan.
As for Herman, he says he'll be around for a couple more months before moving on by the end of the year.
There's still a couple of projects that I'm working on for the Anishinaabe Police Service, so I'll be here for a few more months to complete those projects, but once they're completed, then I'm going into retirement again.
Cheryl Holmes, TBT News.
Thousands of people gathered across Canada yesterday to participate in the annual Terry Fox Runs. Now, that event has raised close to $12 million for cancer research last year alone. As Courtney Rutherford reports, Thunder Bay residents hold a special place in their hearts for a man who was filled with so much courage and perseverance.
I was on my way to university and I saw him running up the hill just outside of Nipigon.
Barb Phillips is one of millions of Canadians who remember Terry Fox and his journey. It was 1980 and Terry Fox had been running across Canada on a prosthetic leg to raise funds for cancer research. After running almost a marathon each day for 143 days, Terry was forced to stop when the cancer recurred in his lungs.
We got to go home and try and do some more treatment. But all I can say is if there's any way I can get out there again and finish it, I will.
His marathon of hope stopped here in Thunder Bay, and Fox was never able to finish. His battle had come to an end, but the fight for cancer research did anything but.
This is the 33rd annual Terry Fox Run, and over those 33 years, over $600 million has been raised. That's a lot of money that's gone into cancer research. And in fact, I read in the Globe and Mail yesterday, they profiled a young fellow who had the same cancer that Terry had. Today, if Terry had that cancer, because of the research, he'd be alive and well and wouldn't have lost his leg.
84 cents of every dollar raised goes directly to cancer research. To this date, the Terry Fox Foundation has raised over $600 million for cancer research worldwide. And over 1,100 cancer research projects have been funded by the foundation. There's a reason why it continues to touch just about everyone.
Well, I've lost both parents to cancer. My dad was a cancer survivor, and then it got him about 40 years later. So I have an affinity for anything that raises money to help for cancer research.
We're from Lakehead University, and we did it last year in Milton, Ontario, near Toronto. We're running for our close neighbor, Jeff Roy, and back in Milton a couple summers ago, he died of cancer.
Each year, just over 500 people come together at Boulevard Lake to participate in the event. Local organizers expect by the end of the day, the Thunder Bay Run will have raised just over $30,000. Courtney Rutherford, TBT News.
Eco Superior has installed one of the first of its kind, a bicycle locker on the city's north side. With help from the Ontario Trillium Foundation, the new secure box will help staff choose active transportation for their commute rather than driving. The box can be locked by a key and keeps bikes out of view in hopes of preventing theft. The space has room for 2 bikes, and Raphael Shea, energy building coordinator for Eco Superior, says the purchase is all part of promoting the benefits of active transportation.
Piece of it is really important too, because over here we have a classic inverted U-rack bicycle lock where people can lock their bikes in, and that's perfect if you're going in for a quick little visit somewhere. But if you're leaving your bike there for the whole day, it can start to wear on you, and you can start to get stressed out about bikes getting stolen, which does happen far too often in this city.
Shea says he hopes that others will eventually catch on and purchase a similar bike locker for their business.